Hey team! How is everybody doing this Wednesday evening? Me and oh no, he's over here. Emotional support Batman are doing great. Um so let's just jump right into things. I don't really have channel announcements or anything like that. The next thermodynamics vid is going up tomorrow. I'm almost done editing them all. Turns out it took me 6 full videos to explain the first law of thermodynamics, what I felt was sufficient. So that'll come out soon. I mean, by soon I mean tomorrow. And that's part 3 that comes out tomorrow. And tonight, team, we are going to look into r/climateskeptics. I've done this before, but it's been half a minute, so I figured we'd just sort by like the top posts for this last month. It's definitely been more than a month since I have looked at r/climateskeptics with any, uh, what's the word? Scrutiny. Um, Oh no, I can hear myself playing in the background. That's very upsetting. Okay, fixed that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining. Slightly before we jump into tonight's live stream, I thought we'd do a weather briefing. That sounds like fun to me. Because I'm a crazy person who likes the weather and I'm getting a PhD in it. So, here's this is the US. This is the US. So this is a very cool website that I like a whole lot. My friend and colleague Tomer put this together. This is Polar Weather. Tomer Berg is his website. I have us looking at the United States for right now because I think most of my viewers are from the United States. Also, it's where I live. So I thought we would start, and so we're getting even more like severe weather in this part of Oklahoma tonight, and I was rather annoyed by it. So I thought we would take a look at my favorite way to look at big picture weather stuff. So this is potential temperature on the 2 PVU surface. Let's see what that looks like for you guys. Oh, I'll undo what I just did. I'll make it bigger for you. Okay. That is the tropopause. So, by the way, if you've been listening to like my Weather 101 stuff, most of those words should make sense. Yeah, because we've talked about potential temperature. I'm pretty sure we talked about potential temperature. Where we are in my outline is I don't know at this point. We definitely talked about the tropopause. So this is just what's going on aloft, and I think that's a great way to kind of get a big picture idea of what's going on. All of these black contours you're seeing, that means sea level pressure. So basically where you see these tight contours, there's interesting stuff going on. So this looks like a big old storm. It's probably a hurricane or a tropical storm making an extratropical transition. You probably didn't hear about it in the news because it stayed away from the shore. It just was out in the ocean the whole time. Here's another big old cyclone. It might do interesting things. This guy might move over to Europe and do some interesting stuff, but it's probably just going to die out over the ocean. And then these barb things, right? That's wind, speed, and direction. You definitely know how to use those if you've been watching my Weather 101 videos. Not that I'm just randomly plugging that. But I did here's some important stuff we can see. One, we have this. See, we have this blues and purples. That's very cold. This cold air. See how it's digging down. That's called a trough. And then this warmer air shooting up, that's a ridge. So if we think of like these reds are supposed to be down here, oh no, they're up here. And these blues are supposed to be up here, like by Alaska. And then it's like, oh no, these blues and purples came all the way down here and here and here. So specifically where we're having like cold air meet warm air is where we're going to have some like exciting weather go on. So California is very warm right now, very warm for the middle of November. I saw somebody tweeting about that earlier today. They were annoyed that their perfect California weather wasn't perfect. And I was like, great, we have to replace our roof for the second time this year. And we're potentially getting hail again tonight. So tell me again how you're mad that it's 85 in California right now. I get a little jaded about home repairs related to weather stuff. But anyway, so that's kind of what we would expect. We'd expect colder temperatures here, warmer temperatures here, and then right along this boundary, right, where we're seeing like our warmer colors transition to our cooler colors right along this line is where we might expect some exciting weather to happen. Oh, and look, Oklahoma's smack dab in the middle of it, like we always are. So that's very fun. Um, okay, I've bored you guys enough with the weather. That's fine. Cody, you had thunderstorms near Tulsa. Yeah, that's think. Um, uh, I think Norman, where I live, I think like just north and just south of us is going to get storms, but it's magically going to get passed by here. And Caleb, thank you so much. Yes, tomorrow is Veterans Day. So thank you for wishing me a happy Veterans Day. If you guys don't know, I was in the Navy for 4 whole years. And so happy Veterans Day to all of my fellow veterans who are listening now or in the future. I tell you, one of the best things that I have done for like my own personal well-being. So you guys, I've started taking some. Oh, and you got thunderstorms up in Kansas City? Yeah, I'm not surprised. We can see why. Um and Dapper, I told you you would be getting a Valley Girl voice next time I'm on your channel. So if you guys don't know, a couple weeks ago I was on Dapper's channel and a gentleman decided to post in the comments section like 2 full essays on how annoying my voice is and how much like a Valley Girl I sound. So, I have promised slash threatened Dapper that next time I'm on his channel, I'm gonna talk like this, like the whole time, and just do a full blown Valley Girl, just the whole stream. But I like you guys, and I would like you to stick around, so I'm not gonna subjugate you to that. What I was gonna, yeah, all right. Whatever other thing I was talking about earlier, that's out the window. Cool. Let's go to r/climateskeptics. That sounds fun. And yes, guys, somebody on Twitter did point out to me that PragerU video on like, is climate change real? That's probably going to be next week's live stream. I just already had this one set up, so I didn't want to change it on the fly. But okay, here we go. I'm just going to get my stream set up so that I can still see chat, but also read Reddit. Okay, so our first post, CNN gets truth bombed live on air. Weather Channel co-founder, climate change is baloney. Well, you guys know how I feel about the Weather Channel, and that is I don't like it. I'm not a fan of the Weather Channel. I'm in general not a fan of so okay. The reason that I don't like the Weather Channel is because of how they report life-threatening weather events, right? Um, in my opinion, that is just my opinion, the way that that is reported, um, uh, it seems to me that they often allegedly, supposedly report the most extreme case all the time, not the most likely. And in my opinion, that causes the public's trust in weather forecasting, especially for life-threatening events, that like causes degrade in that trust. Um, I have in fact been in like my in-laws' kitchen yelling at the Weather Channel before, um, uh, at how irresponsible the reporting of a hurricane was coming from the Weather Channel. So I have feelings about the Weather Channel. I know this means, well, anyway. Vesta, would you really like me to do the Valley Girl voice like the whole time? Oh my god. Like, oh my god. I can do the vocal fry too. So we do like the low Valley Girl. By the way, number one way to make my I've been taking some improv classes. It's very fun. It also helps me with like communication skills. And it helps me make friends. Um, the number one way to get the whole rest of my troop to die laughing is for me to do the low Valley Girl. Anyway, I might have to bust that out for a character on Guns, Magic, and Steel. That would be very fun. Guns, Magic, and Steel, if you don't know, is the D&D actual play show that I DM for me, Dapper Dino, me, Dapper Dino, Cheshire Vic, Gusset Gibbon, Benthoven, TD Lane, and then Gusset Gibbon's fiance Luke also plays. So, the whole collection of science friends. We play D&D together. Okay, but let's watch this clip. This looks like fun. I've got to stop sharing and switch to sharing a different way so that you can hear the audio from that video. We'll do this. Nope, not that button. This button, share audio. Great. And then you guys can see that again. Cody, stay safe. Electricity flickered on and off. Are you under are you under any kind of warnings or anything? If you want me to check, like, just let me know in the chat and I'll check for you. I worry about you guys. Okay, let's replay this video. What do we got? Oh, I can't hear that. I can't hear it, you guys definitely can't. Ah, there we go. Okay. Boom.
It's nice to be on CNN. Hello to all your viewers. I resent you calling me a denier. That is a word meant to put me down. I'm a skeptic about climate change, and I want to make it darn clear Mr. Kenny's not a scientist. I am. He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now, hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote.
Oh, okay. So, like, this idea of this consensus in science. He is right. Science isn't a vote. Things either are right or are wrong. But, like, how in the world, good sir, do you want important information to be communicated to the public and to policymakers, right? Uh, right, like, so okay, so I think that, like, what we're running into with this guy, and let me just, like, I'm gonna try to be, like, very charitable in my read here. Um, I think it used to be the case that there was sort of, if someone said, "I am a scientist in this field, and you should trust me about this because I know about it," and that person was generally trusted. Um, right, so think like and so to some degree, that's a good thing. I would like people to trust me on when I'm saying things, but I'm also only saying things, especially when I'm outside of my field, when it's consensus scholarship. And consensus scholarship just means like that's a way that you communicate to non-specialists. That's not how scientists talk to each other, right? If I when I'm working on a presentation right now, I have to give my annual seminar on my PhD research next week. I'm going to try to upload the video for that. So if you guys are interested in what I actually do as a scientist, you should be able to get a thing. And Robert, you're absolutely right. Consensus isn't a vote, right? Um, uh, and it's and so it's not a vote. What I'm struggling here is the difference in how I communicate with other scientists versus how I communicate with the general public. Um, And because the other thing that you can't say in science is like it is absolutely 100% factual, right? That's, oh gosh, like that's a scary phrase. That's a scary phrase for me to say. Um because while in general conversation, that's sort of what people want to hear. Um and Gary, yeah, like consensus in science is mostly universal acceptance. So in my mind, if I'm like writing a technical paper, the things that I don't have to cite, right? I don't have to cite a source that says certain things. Um, for example, I don't have like it is such common knowledge that the Arctic on planet Earth is warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. That is such common knowledge that I don't have to cite a source for that statement whenever I put it in a paper. Um, but if you're not a scientist and you haven't spent literal years doing school in your field and building up like the vocabulary and the nuance of reading papers, right? I can't communicate that same, me not citing a source for that sentence carries weight and means something in a scientific paper, but that doesn't mean anything to the general public, right? Is there a weather phenomenon that would cause all the dogs here to go crazy? There being Arizona. I mean, if all the dogs are going crazy, my guess is that an ambulance is driving by somewhere. That would be my guess before I would guess a weather phenomenon. But I mean, sometimes animals can be sensitive to like big swings in pressure. So I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, so like this guy, like he's not wrong in what he's saying, that like what is consensus scholarship, that's mostly a thing, that's mostly a term you use, that's not really a term that is not a term that you use when you are inside of an academic field. That is a term you're going to use when you're trying to communicate to the public, and right now he's just coming off as very arrogant, and I am not a fan. All right, let's keep going.
Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening.
What? What? This actual human person just said that climate change is not happening. No. Watch, look. You can't see this tab. I have to change. I have to. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'm breathing normally like a normal human. This one. Yes. Okay. Guy. Okay. Average global temperature since 1979. 1979, by the way, is the start of the satellite era for meteorology. So basically, like our data gets way better from 1979 forward. I just want a good plot. Okay. Hey, look. That's from Wikipedia though, so we maybe shouldn't go to Wikipedia. EPA, I like it. Okay. All right. Open image in new tab. Okay. Hey, look at that. Here we go. Earth's surface, and this is temperature anomaly. So this is how different is it from what we consider normal. You want to, and look at all the red. Over here, it's almost like it's increasing. Do you want to tell me again that climate change isn't happening? Oh my gosh. Like no one says climate change isn't happening. Sometimes people will say like, well, I acknowledge that the earth is warming, but I don't think there's credible evidence that it's humans' fault. And like there's an equally simple graph for that. But I am shocked that this guy is like, nope, that's not a warming trend. That's not a thing. Like, okay, so let's switch to sharing so that you guys can hear the audio, and we'll go back. And so Vesta will jump back and let him say that again, and I'll panic less this time. And we'll go from there is what we'll do. Okay. There we go. Wow. Okay. So let me back this up like a few seconds. Okay.
Facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney, and yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform, and I regret it's become political instead of scientific, but the science is on my side.
I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion about the topic right here. What I do wonder
Wow.
though, is
We're
when
not,
you
because
see
you wouldn't allow it to happen on CNN.
Ooh, I'm gonna go let this old man continue to yell at clouds. Ooh.
CNN. But I'm happy
Well,
that I got on the
we've
air
been
and got a
talking here for
chance to
several
talk
minutes.
to your viewers. Hello, everybody.
What
There
I
is
do,
no global warming.
what I do want.
Okay, and then they added cringy sunglasses. So that was a thing. So notice, right, that like this guy, he's gonna go on CNN. Um, uh, it's, instead of publishing in a journal, right? Like, so he's also that's not even how I would want to make a claim if I went on CNN. If I wanted to say something like that, I would bring with me data, right? I would have a slide or something. I would work with them. Like, can I make a graphic? Um, uh, yeah. I don't. And again, I don't know what he means by the science is on my side. Like, if you're gonna come on here and like I'm a scientist, the science is on my side. Please like state a specific study, because if you're gonna like it would be like me saying, so like I said earlier, I can say in a paper, it is well known that the Arctic is currently warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet, period. Don't have to cite. Now if I cited something else, right, if I wanted to say something else, if I wanted to say that like the Arctic is not warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet, even if I wanted to say it's warming at like, oh, turns out it's like 3 times the rate, or if I wanted to say anything different, then I would absolutely need to back that up, because that's go and that doesn't mean that I'm wrong, but that does mean that I'm giving an unexpected result, and I need to back that up with the data that I actually used, right? So this guy, I would love to see, like, cool, what data are you using, right? How did you draw this conclusion? Um, thanks, Gary. That's super sweet. And Cody, I would go back on Fight the Flat Earth channel like any day. I had a blast on there with him. That was super fun. I don't do a lot of flat earther stuff because on it, like I like last week's live stream was a flat earth live stream, and it was legitimately difficult. Like they don't put forth arguments. They just sort of point incredulously. Incredulously. That's a word I can say. Um So wow, okay. We're just gonna okay, so and that's just like he owned the libs, I guess, because he put on glasses there. Um, so I think we're done with that one. Let's go down here to the next thing. Bill Gates is building a small city for his daughter's wedding, but told Anderson Cooper about the sacrifices we all must make for climate change. Just remember this when he or other billionaires tell you it's existential, it's a lie, the whole thing. Um, so cool, right. Here's the thing. Uh rich someone and again, I'm just going to take this statement on its face value, right? Like I don't know what Bill Gates is doing to build for his daughter's wedding, right? Um so the root of the problem here is one, the idea that the behavior of any one person can't, even if they're Bill Gates, right? Even if they're Bill Gates, the idea that any one person can meaningfully affect global climate change. The fact of the matter is that like you and I could get our carbon footprint down to zero, and it would make zero change on global warming. Um, it's at the like industrial level that's the real problem. Um, so one that's an issue of now there are places where personal responsibility is very important. So um things like water use in drought prone areas, that is a place where one person can make a difference, and individuals, like every individual has to get on board or else it's going to be a problem. Keeping your like your town clean, right, caring about like clean water and clean air, right, of like your town, like that matters. So there's certainly places where personal choice matters, but if we're talking about like global plastics consumption, right? I as an individual could reduce my plastic consumption. Actually, I couldn't reduce my plastic consumption to zero because it's in literally everything, and that's sort of the problem. Um, so like how far food is transported, right? That's and how far goods are transported and how much fuel that uses. That's like a huge thing. Um, um, and oh no, a billionaire is a billionaire, or like one person isn't doing exactly what they say other people should do. So somebody doesn't think the rules apply to them because they have dollars, right? Like, oh no, um, that's not. Yeah, that's this has nothing to do with um so it's a lie, the whole thing. So because Bill Gates, right, it's just a bad argument. Because Bill Gates is doing XYZ for his daughter's wedding, therefore the world isn't warming. Like that doesn't work. And I think that some of this boils down to is especially with a lot of like right wing folks more extreme on the right wing end. I see this a lot in young earth creationism stuff. You see this in flat earth stuff. Uh they really, really want me to be following a prophet, right? Like they really want to be able to point to, oh, so this happened in my debate with Nathan Thompson, right, on Flat Earth. He was like, well, your guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, that guy that you believe in, says this. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't mention Neil deGrasse Tyson once in that conversation, right? He brought him up. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson does some really great science communication. I got to meet him once. That was super cool. I got to go to a taping of Star Talk, and it was one of the greatest moments of my life. That was very cool. But like, I don't my knowledge and understanding of science, like Neil deGrasse Tyson could like I don't want this to happen, but he and all of his contributions to the world could be wiped off the face of the planet. And what I think about science and climate change and the shape of the earth would be unaffected, right? Like I don't believe in my knowledge of science doesn't come from a prophet, right? Whereas that's not true in like young earth creationism or like flat earth stuff. It's no, 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 no. There's this like this thing that is the ultimate truth that can't be wrong. And that's what I believe in. And a lot of folks who are in those camps really want people not in those camps. They want like the way that I live and relate to the world to function the same way they do, where is uh like I have a like prophet that I follow and get all of my knowledge about everything from them. And that's just not how that works, right? People disappoint you, right? Let's all be pirates, right? What's that? No gods, no masters. Let's go be pirates. It'll be great. Okay. Oh, yeah, and Caleb, absolutely. Like, this is so the Democrats made this up and Germany is dealing with it, right? That doesn't make sense. So a lot of these arguments are also very Americentric, which is a fun word I recently learned. Um, there's like America is the whole world is kind of the assumption behind a lot of these things. Which it's not how things work. Okay. Tell me again why I need to pay a carbon tax. Like one, um, I doubt you as an individual are really paying a carbon tax. That's much more at the industrial level. And uh, so because China and India are making the problem worse, slash not helping, slash not doing their part, the US shouldn't do anything either, right? This is just because that kid got to punch somebody on the playground. Why do I have to not punch people? Because it's not nice. It's not nice. It's a thing. Anyway, other people aren't being responsible. Why do I have to be? Right? Europe could say the same thing about the US. Okay. Uh, UN predicts disaster if global warming not checked. This was written in 1989 because we've known about this for a really long time. Um, Entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. Um, Rebecca, are you kidding me? That is so cool. Oh no, I need to go look this up because I've got friends that were in the nuclear department there. I don't know if I still know anybody in the nuclear department, but I'll have to check. But that's amazing. Uh, uh, oh, Cody, that's awesome. That you were stationed in Germany. Because I had the nerdiest job in the Navy, was never stationed anywhere except in Charleston, South Carolina, except for there was like 2 weeks where I got to go to sea, and it was amazing. I got to go to sea for a week on a submarine, and then later I got to go to sea for a week on a carrier. And I just ran around the engine room and annoyed everyone with all of my questions about nuclear things. Um, I'll talk about that magnet here in a second, but um, so there's a few things here, right? Like, um, when one, like, we have put some measures into place, like, it's not enough, we need to do more, but we have put in some. If we're thinking about, like, climate models, there's the worst case scenario versus, like, how do you put into a climate model for how things are gonna change over the next 50, 100 years? Like, you have to do it with, like, if we, reduce all carbon, if we double the amount of carbon, if we quadruple the amount of carbon, if we continue on our current carbon trends, right? Turns out figuring out what the entire planet is gonna do in terms of industry for the next 100 years is tricky. Um, so there's things that, like, we know these things can happen. And this is the example I like to give. I know I can say with a high degree of confidence that um, we will see like an ice-free summer in the Arctic this century, right? Um, it's not going to be next year. Arctic sea ice reaches its minimum in September, so we already hit the 2021 minimum. Anyway, so, like, it's not gonna be next year, and it'll probably be before the year 2100. In between that is turns out really hard. It'll probably be in the next 50 years. I would be surprised if it didn't happen in the next 50 years. Um, but, like, with current trends, Miami is going to completely flood and not exist anymore. It's not gonna happen this year. It'll right, again, if nothing changes, it will probably happen by the year 2100. But will it happen in the next decade? I honestly don't know. Right? So, one of the common complaints about climate skeptics is like the accuracy of the predictions of climate models because I understand that what people want is for me to say statements like this, right? That rising sea levels entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels in the next like 30 years, right? Or by this year. The people want hard deadlines, and the nature of this type of science is that I can't give that to you. I can't. So, um, uh, this I don't know. Notice that this is printed in a newspaper, not a scientific article. So I wonder if this is a journalist translating a conversation he had with a scientist. But like, and I don't know, maybe in 1989, scientists were more loosey goosey with their predictions. But I am very cautious of predictions. Uh, so, yeah, that's just I don't know what this is supposed to prove, right? And this is why we skeptic. Oh, sorry, before we read this, I want to do a thing. So, Rebecca talked about magnet things, uh magnets. So, fusion reactors. Fusion reactors, you're making a um yeah, epsilon is greater than. You're absolutely right. By the way, guys, epsilon is greater than has a science communication channel that is like grossly undersubbed. You should check them out. Um And you guys are right. Robert and Epsilon, you guys are absolutely right. That like the way the sentence is structured, it's not that the countries would have been wiped out by the year 2000. It's that you have to reverse these trends by the year 2000. Okay, the way fusion reactors work, right? You have to make a small star. Turns out it's hard to make a non-star-sized star, right? Because that's what that stars are powered by fusion. So to get that self-sustained fusion reaction, you sort of need something to be as big as a star, which is very big. So to make one that is like small and compact and can fit in your pocket, it can't actually fit in your pocket, but you know what I mean. Something that can reasonably fit on planet Earth in like a building. Um, you have to ridiculously crank up the pressure that the your hydrogen is in, or your helium is in, or deuterium. It depends on what you're fusing. It's a thing. And so really, really powerful magnets matter a lot because they can make a really strong field to force those atoms together to make some fusion. Okay, let's read this. The first word is Arctic, and so I feel like this is my life. Okay. The Arctic Ocean is warming up. That's a true statement. Icebergs are growing scarcer, and in some places, the seals are finding the water too hot, according to reports from the Commerce Department yesterday from the US consulate in Norway. That seems true. The Arctic Ocean is warming up. That is factual. Icebergs are growing scarcer. That is factual. I don't know about the direct effects on like migration patterns of seals, so I can't speak to that. Reports from fishermen, seal hunters, and explorers all point to a radical change in climate conditions and hitherto unheard of temperatures in the Arctic zone. So, this is true with one caveat, this hitherto unheard of temperatures. That's going to be like within the last few thousand years. If you're looking at the whole several billion year lifetime of the Earth, no, there's times when it's been hotter. Um, but like, since humans have been paying attention, yes. So that hitherto unnoticed, that's a they don't mean forever, they mean within a specific time period there. Exploration expeditions report that scarcely any ice has been met as far north as 81 degrees 29 minutes. Yeah, this should be uh okay. Soundings to a depth of this showed the Gulf Stream still very warm. Great masses of ice have been replaced by something of earth and stone, the report continues. While at many points, well known glaciers have entirely disappeared, very few seals, something, something. And then I neglect to mention this report was from November 1922. Yeah, cool. So, one, the pre industrial period starts in 1850. Um, I do want to save the aquapuppers, but we will not bring back Mesozoic climate. No, thank you. Okay. Um, so I don't. Well, let's. I don't know how charitable I'm feeling at the moment. Not super. Because notice this is just like text that's clipped from a thing, so this could very well be fake. You know. Yeah, I can't. But human emissions have been affecting the climate since like 1850. It has gotten worse in recent years. He's. Are you gonna tell me? So, all right. We'll be mildly charitable. Um, let's look this up. Charity is for D&D streams. Fair. Okay, but let's Washington Post, November 2nd, 1922. Let's do this. Washington Post, November 2nd, 1922. Climate change. Oh, hey, Snopes, thank you. Okay, did a 1922 article. I think that's what we in theory just read. And this is okay, that's a true thing. Okay. Um Oh my gosh, please stop. There's so many. It won't even scroll. I need an ad blocker. Oh my gosh, stop giving me pop-ups. I hate it. Okay, so this is true. Published in Monthly Weather Review. Monthly Weather Review, by the way, that's still a journal article. Okay. The unusually warm summer in Arctic Norway was observed by this dude. Cool, 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 cool. Um, okay. So here's the important bit here is that like that region was undergoing a warm spell. That's fundamentally what was happening. So, um, yeah. So that was so anyway, they're cool. Cool, 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 cool. So, okay, I guess the key concept here is I think there's a few key concept that this little bit of snark was missing. So let's address those um, while I enjoy a little bit of this drink. Oh, the key concepts are as follows. One, one, um, that when we refer to global climate change and real climate change, what we are scientifically, what that means is a like noticeable, statistically significant change from an at least 30-year trend for excuse me, from at least a 30-year average. Um, yeah. So if we were to take um the Dust Bowl, right? The Dust Bowl in the United States. There was a period of like 15-ish years in the Great Plains that experienced uh abnormally high amounts of rainfall, right? Um it was like above average for that region. This led to this was also like right around World War One, right? So Europe was having the US import a lot of wheat. So growing wheat into these regions that are generally arid, but it just so happened that at this point in time they were getting enough moisture, getting enough precipitation that they could grow a ton of wheat. So there was a lot of money in growing wheat in this area, and land there was pretty cheap. Um, there was this over farming, gross over farming of the land that continued after that region slipped out of a like high precipitation period of time and into a drought. So they kept farming and growing wheat and growing wheat and growing wheat, and in fact then as like more people were doing this, the price of wheat was dropping, so you had to grow even more wheat in order to get the same price back, right? If you kind of see this feedback loop. Um, and then it went into drought for a while, which was when we had that Dust Bowl, and then it finally like reset. And this was catastrophic, right? Um People and livestock like starved. It was bad. It was a very bad time in American history. Um, but that is not climate change, right? That was, I mean, you could that was a climate fluctuation, right? It was a variation within what's considered normal. Um, hey David. Um, so Cody, if your cousin, sorry, is a nerd for tornadoes and storm chasing, I'm very like the best thing if you really want to do storm chasing, you want to do that in a responsible way. Come to OU, come get a meteorology degree. You can participate in even as an undergrad, you can participate in field research. Um, uh, Amateur storm chasing makes me very nervous. It puts a lot of people at a lot of unnecessary risk, including the scientists who need to be out in the field, and including things like another thing you could look a career you could look into would be storm spotting. That's usually working with like a local news station or even the National Weather Service. I don't think you strictly have to have a degree in meteorology to do that. It's kind of more of a technical thing. But storm spotting is like it's your job to go confirm touchdowns because uh, tornadoes have a nasty habit of breaking our equipment. And so they can be hard to like exactly pinpoint. So storm spotting is still a like a job. That would be a great thing. Anyway, um, so anyway, so but even those pretty extreme drought, pretty extreme like heavy rainfall before that in the Great Depression era, um, those were not indicative of global warming. That was a local phenomenon that then resolved itself, right? It was a break from the average, but it kind of came back to normal. So I don't know the specifics of Norway, and I don't know the period of time over which these observations were taken. But let's say you could very easily have a 10-year period where you were having just abnormally warm Norway. Um, that would not be indicative of a trend in warming unless that warmness continued over a long period of time, at least 30 years. Um, so secondarily, that also wouldn't be a trend of like global warming because this is a regional effect. So let's think about like, so those are some of like the science things we'd be looking for. Is this data indicative of global warming or is indicative of a change in the local climate? And if so, why? Um, that would be a very interesting question, right? That'd be a good science question. So it is also separately true that oftentimes the way that I or other climate scientists are going to communicate to the general public about why global warming is bad, right? If I tell you that sea ice extent has dropped by this percent in the last 50 years, why in the world would you care about that? But if I say things like, if I relate it to people or sea doggos, right, seals, then that helps people not in the field understand why this is bad, right? Does that make sense? So, this article, so the evidence that global warming is happening and is bad isn't that like whale migration patterns have changed, right? That's the effect, not the cause, if that makes sense. Um, and but like, what does it mean for global sea temperatures to be rising, right? Again, if I'm going to communicate that outside of my field, especially outside of my field, then I'm going to give you some tangible examples for the why do you care. So these guys have found an example of what we use as the why should we care happening in a different context and are trying to say therefore global warming now isn't real. Like it's not, A doesn't follow B there. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Okay. So this is from the Telegraph. Um, cool. Author used a private jet to travel 31 miles. Rich people being rich. Don't know what that has to do with climate. Cool. Um, corporate jets to escape EU's green aviation fuel tax. Rich people being rich. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. That's not what I said, Tapper. That is not what I said, and you know it. Okay. There is no climate emergency, say 500 experts in a letter to the United Nations. Well, okay. Let's look at this. Natural as well as anthropogenic factors cause warming. That's factual. However, there are no known natural processes that would cause the climate to be warming at the rate that it currently is, right? So that statement one, that is true. It's just not the full truth. It's like it's not a lie, but it's misleading. Warming is far slower than predicted. I need stats on that. So how do you know that? How much slower? What is far? What was predicted? What is actually happening? Because what I've seen is that and I think maybe this is a weather versus other types of sciences. In weather, because the atmosphere is an inherently chaotic system. One of these days I'm really going to do a whole video series on chaotic dynamics. It's like my favorite branch of math. But what that means is there are going to be internal processes inside the atmosphere that are fundamentally unpredictable. I don't know how to say that any better. But again, like the nuance of chaotic dynamics is incredibly nuanced and beautiful and wonderful. So what I have seen, even like reading through the IPCC report, by the way, there's going to be more IPCC report videos. Just, oh, guys, it's the middle of the semester. I'm currently grading midterms and prepping for a conference and being a full-time PhD student slash YouTuber slash Dungeons and Dragons player and trying to live my best life. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Butterfly effect. Butterfly effect. That's not my favorite. Uh, that's not my favorite way to understand chaotic dynamics, but you are thinking it is the butterfly effect. Um, uh, And Dapper, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know who these 500 experts are. What are they experts in, et cetera, so forth. But let's keep. Okay. So what I have seen looking at our models for global warming is that the the trend falls exactly in the sort of we think warming is going to fall between these two lines, and it keeps falling right between those two lines, right? Exactly where predicted. Now I know most people they don't want a range, they want a number, they want a line, but that's not something that a chaotic system can give you. It just can't. It mathematically can't. It's not that we need better computers or better models or anything like that. It's that you're asking for things that are actually impossible. um okay. So, what's the next argument here? Climate policy relies on inadequate models. What are you saying about my models? No. Climate models are actually very good. Are they perfect? No, of course not. Nothing's perfect, and there's room for continuous improvement. But they're pretty darn good. And where they have errors are generally things that we know, right? So, for example, we know that climate models aren't currently capturing observed trends in Arctic sea ice. Now, what does that mean? So they're very good at capturing the general decline in sea ice, general decline. By the way, when I taught for the Navy, anytime I would say general something, I would always salute, and that always got a lot of laughs. I don't, I do miss not getting laughs at that terrible joke anymore when I teach non-officers, non-military folks. But anyway, uh, so so I don't know what you mean by inadequate models. In what way are modern climate models inadequate? Like, please explain that to me. CO2 is not a pollutant. Says who? It is essential. In excess is not good. No, more CO2 is not strictly beneficial for nature. Uh, no. Like, what about regions around the Sahara that are experiencing desertification and you can't grow anything there anymore where you used to be able to grow things? CO2, it's not like a one size fits all thing. You are right. If there was zero CO2, that would be bad. But this much CO2 is also bad, right? Balance in all things. Global warming has not increased natural disasters. That's just factually incorrect. It's documented in the IPCC report and is, in fact, the subject of my next IPCC report video, whenever I have time to sit down and film it. Climate policy must respect scientific and economic realities. Sure. Um, and then 7, there is no climate emergency. If that's supposed to be the conclusion from the previous 6 statements, I disagree. Therefore, no cause for panic. Listen, I'm all for not panicking, right? You get your towel, and you always travel with your towel, and you don't panic, and that's just fine. Um, so like, there's no need for panic is not the same as saying there is no need for urgent action or there is no urgent need for action. I would say that there is, in fact, an urgent need for action, but I am not panicking, right? Um, uh, because panic helps nothing. There is an urgent need for action. Uh, Yeah, maybe that's what they're talking about. I've heard people say like climate models aren't accurate, but that's like all they've said, right? They don't have any. If I try to pry and be like, well, in what way? Or what do you mean? That's it. They just so it feels like a talking point to me, more so than anything else. So I don't know. I don't know what that point is supposed to be. Is Babelfish are very important for intergalactic travel. You need them. All right. I'm not going to read the letter because if we're done. After declaring war on U.S. energy, Biden now asking, I don't feel like that's reality. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like gas prices haven't changed since Biden took office or not noticeably, you know. So I don't know what this is supposed to be. American Enterprise Institute. Oh, good. Okay. Okay. So this is the comic. Here is tree ring data. It's a proxy for past temperatures. Trouble is, it goes down when modern thermometers go up. So we deleted the part that looked wrong and joined them all up. Isn't splicing 2 data sets in one graph unscientific? No, as long as you note it. But we did mention it in small print later. Oh my gosh. I don't know. All right, well, let's Google this. Let's Google this. Let's Google tree ring, modern tree ring temperature data. Um, okay, let's go to NASA, climate.nasa.gov. By the way, I've heard lots of people be like, why do we give money to NASA? Shouldn't we be spending that money on other places? Like, please don't defund NASA. NASA is why we have satellites to measure global temperature and things and can find hurricanes when they're still in the ocean. Like, turns out, team, NASA pays for itself. Anyway, okay. This is a pretty elementary explanation. It's talking about how tree rings form. Oh, well, that wasn't what I wanted to look. I wanted to look at tree ring temperature data. Let's take out that modern and let's go to images. Let's see. Okay. Uh no, okay, that's skeptical science, real climate. Um uh, okay, okay, okay. Okay. Data from tree rings to determine something, something, something. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to this website. It's not secure. Glad. Okay. Oh my gosh, we'll just accept the cookies. It's fine. Tree ring processing. All right. Here we go. Raw standard deviation, something. Oh, that's standard ring width. Global tree ring width. and temperature. Okay. Don't know. It's going up. I don't know where we're getting that. It's going down a bit from. Okay. Northern. Okay, so there's that. That's going down. That's interesting. Northern hemisphere tree rings widths and temperature. Okay. And then oh look, there's southern hemisphere tree ring width and temperature. Hmm. Possible. Sorry, I love that like this seems to be showing that dip that they were talking about, but it's going up in the southern hemisphere. And if we take the global average, it goes up. So that's fun. All right, I'm bored looking that up. That's not fact checked. Well, all right, fun. Boris Johnson's new trade secretary claimed global warming isn't actually happening. I don't know who this woman is. I recognize that she's Boris Johnson's new trade secretary. But like, what qualifications does she have? In what? Excuse me. Clear evidence that the ice caps aren't melting after all? Absolutely not, ma'am. Absolutely not. I deal in Arctic climate stuff. That's my whole wheelhouse. My whole job is understanding Arctic sea ice loss. I assure you, it is leaving us. Goodness. Goodness gracious. Here, you don't even have to take my word for it. Let's go to NSIDC. NSIDC, National Snow and Ice Data Center. It's a US-based data center, but it's where I get all of my sea ice data for my research and stuff. It should be free and available to the public. So let's look at sea ice, and we'll look at this is just we're gonna look at the change in Arctic sea ice over the course of the year for all of the years that they have is what we're gonna look at. Okay. If it'll load, I don't know why my internet is very slow tonight. I'm gonna try a thing. Oh, you can't see what I'm Googling. Sorry, team. Oh. No. Uh, StreamYard's just being kind. All right, so NSIDC data is being weirdly slow to load. We'll take a look at it here in a second. Let's keep going. The climate can't fix itself. All right, I'm not going to worry about YouTube science. We're going to ignore that. Okay. Follow the science. 6 million perish in Soviet famine. That sounds awful. That I don't want to look at that poor horse. I have no idea what that has to do with global climate, like modern global climate change. Okay. Once again, rich people being rich. The wind-powered cargo ship. Oh, that's very cool. Is set to change the way we ship goods across the oceans. I get that we can make fun of it for like, let's go back to sails. First of all, sailing ships are very cool. Okay, Deborah, you've got me there. But that was like a YouTube the company produced video on climate change. And like, I'm not gonna worry about that. Yeah. Oh, hey, that's also true. And also, like regions will experience periods of famine and drought. And that will happen like regardless of climate change. That's part of sort of natural cycles. That's not like bad. That doesn't or sorry, that does I mean I said that wrong. That doesn't mean that that's like not incredibly bad for the people that it affects. Absolutely. There's a huge human cost to those types of things. Um, but like a period of drought or a period of famine is also like not applying a moral judgment to it, not applying a good or bad. That is just part of a natural, normal climate cycle. The same way tornadoes in Oklahoma are part of our weather. Golf ball sized hail that destroys your roof twice in 1 year is part of our weather. I'm a little salty that we have to replace our roof again. Um, that's part of our weather. But if we suddenly started getting golf ball sized hail in, I don't know, London, that would be really weird. Or if we started consistently getting that type of weather over there, like that would be concerning and strange. Um, yeah. Anyway, yeah, anyway, so with this one, yeah, we can make fun of the like wind powered. Wait a minute, I feel like we've done this before. But like I said earlier in this video, like one of the biggest contributors to global emissions has to do with supply chains. That tomato that you had on your salad today traveled a real long ways before it got to you. And so if we can get real sustainable, viable ways to reduce emissions from shipping, like that's amazing. Something like what is it? Something like 70% of all goods that are traded internationally go by ship. Um, Reject diesel, return to air. Exactly, Dapper, right? Like that's yeah, like anyway, they're just making fun of it. Let's see. Oh, okay, sweet. NSIDC popped up. And I've got to switch how I'm sharing. Share screen, window. There we go. Okay. We're just going to look at Arctic sea ice. I do want to look at the sea ice index, but I want to look, I really just want the pictures. So let me back up. Let me go over here. Okay. That can go away. Arctic sea ice news and analysis. That's where I want to be. Okay, let's go to Chartic. Um, so Scott, that's a good question of does the state of sea ice leave me pessimistic? Um, so to me, the state of Arctic sea ice, it sort of this is how it is. Um, I would and what I am fundamentally trying to do is help the people like that the ships that can pass through the Arctic now that couldn't 20 years ago. There is now a need to understand the weather of this region so that ships can pass through there safely. And then there's also like indigenous people that live in this region. And so I'm really interested in the weather, the effects of sea ice on weather and weather on sea ice. So because people go there now, and if we're going to go there, we need to be able to do it safely and to give, weather kills a lot of people, it's natural disasters are a thing. Um, anyway, and Don, I could be wrong. I could be fusing some stuff together, which is very possible. So yeah. Okay. I was showing you guys Arctic sea ice data. That's what I was doing. Where is this one? Chartic. This is like my favorite graph. Um, that's maybe a possibility. That is not sea ice. So that's actually not my wheelhouse. That's land ice. Believe it or not, very different. Um, um, yeah. We should definitely be doing something about climate change. But the other thing is that like if we stopped all emissions worldwide tomorrow, it would still take like at least my lifetime for the climate to figure out what it's doing. And so, in the meantime, we should understand the world we live in is kind of my view. Okay. So, all right, team. So this is Arctic sea ice extent. That's what you're looking at. The blue curve was this year. So this is where we are at with how much sea ice we have. Notice we reach our winter maximum over here. You actually reach that maximum sometime in March. You reach the minimum in September. And so this dark gray line here, that's the median value from the median should be, yeah, from a 30-year period, 1981 through 2010. And then this dark gray shading, that's called the interquartile range, and the light gray shading is the interdecile range. So those are sort of like ranges, especially that darker shading is sort of ranges what we would consider climatologically normal. And then notice that this year, hey, we're below the curve the whole time, right? We're below normal, we're below average at all times. The red curve is actually from 2012. It's the record minimum. Um, uh, so 2012 had a record minimum sea ice extent. We haven't gotten back to that minimum because so the summer of 2012, that sea ice was very interesting. But basically, team, the reason that the blue and the red, like the reason that this year we ended up with more sea ice at the minimum than we did in 2012, like almost a decade ago, is the reason I have a job, if that makes sense. Like all of my research is in like that's weird. What processes do we not understand? What is happening that we're not capturing that's beyond just ice freezes in the winter and melts in the summer? So that why this year wasn't below the red, why we're not just consistently getting lower and lower at the minimum is sort of my whole deal. Anyway, so this was to combat that statement earlier that was like we're not losing the ice caps. I'm like, "You sure? Are you sure about that? Because it looks to me like we are." Anywho, um, okay, okay. Let's pop back over to Reddit. Um, make a statue with ice. Oh, this is like an art thing that's supposed to represent global warming, I think. I mean, art is art. That's cool. Joe Biden accused of falling asleep during the climate summit speeches. Listen, Uncle Joe's old. He needs his nap. Um, I don't know what that has to do with climate. Um, we don't need oil anymore except for charging. So this is an image of an electric car charger plugged up to like a generator. Yeah, turns out, team, it does matter where you get your like electricity from. That's part of your carbon footprint and all of that. Um, I don't. So where you're getting your electricity from? There's I don't know the exact numbers. There's a balance of like modern electric vehicles, even if you're charging off of like the dirtiest energy you can, will be a net plus for the environment if you look after 10 or 15 years, I think. Um, uh, so okay, that's not like an argument. There is no climate emergency. That's a fun. Oh hey, guys, look. The letter went from 500 to 900 scientists. So that's fun. Uh I'm not going to read these arguments again because we already went through that. Um Support for climate change skyrockets after computer models show it will flood California. Oh, okay, but that's from Babylon B. Are you kidding me? Did you repost something from a satirical website? My goodness. Um, Banned from r/architecture for commenting with scientific evidence that climate change is not a proven theory. What do you mean by proven theory? Like what is the standard of evidence? You know what I mean? Like what do you mean by that? Um it absolutely is, it is supported by robust evidence. So that's fun. And if you guys have watched me or Dapper or like anyone uh Oh, Almost a Doctor, thank you. By the way, team, Almost a Doctor, also a chronically undersubbed science communication channel. And we're working on a couple collabs, which is going to be great. I am the one slacking on that because of the aforementioned grading and prep for conferences. I know words. I'm sorry, team. I spent all day trying to debug my Python code, which is like my least favorite thing on planet Earth. But basically, I have some really lovely code that does a very cool statistical analysis of large data sets. Has to do with sea ice. And I wanted so I did this, I ran this code on like this data set over here, and everything was hunky dory. And then I wanted to do the same process on a different set of data. So I brought that data in, and everything exploded. Like it's so bad. It's so bad. My data looks like abstract art in not a good way. And I didn't fix it by the time I left today, and it made me very sad, and frustrated, and I'll have to go fix it tomorrow. But right now I'm hanging out with you guys, and you're cool. Um, you like you like debugging Python? Man, if you can help me understand why masked arrays make everything panic, then I would that would be great. Isn't Python? I meant to highlight this comment. Um, and my knowledge is that I do think Anaconda is a Python shell. I'm not a computer programmer. I've never actually had a class in programming, but I have to use it all the time. So I'm like completely self-taught in Python. Um, sometimes that doesn't go well. Sometimes I think that like maybe I should take a class in this. Anywho, I don't. I'm not really interested in this guy's like martyr uh martyr thing. He's what I can read without clicking through is very sarcastic. So right, it's not on GitHub. Maybe it should be. But this is just my nonsense. Ah, Scott, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay. Climate crisis. Greenhouse gas levels hit new record despite lockdowns. UN reports. Journalism is stone cold dead to the I don't what's the full image? Um Levels of climate heating gases in the atmosphere had record levels in 2020 despite coronavirus related lockdowns, the UN World Meteorological Organization has announced. So why is journalism stone cold dead? I honestly do not understand how the title of this post is related to this article. Is their claim that like this isn't true? Oh, I could be using Fortran, and you're right. Like, all climate models are written in Fortran, and I can edit Fortran a little bit, like to run specific models. But what I needed to do was, I have a large data set. I want to perform what's called a maximum covariance analysis. No one wants to hear about this, I assume. So I need to take two data sets. They have to have sample in time the same. I need to do a little bit of pre-processing to them in terms of I need to remove the seasonal cycle. And I need to remove like a climate trend from them, and I need to remove the seasonal cycle. And then I need to pass them to a linear algebra engine that's going to, then I need to make a covariance matrix with the two of them, multiplying them together, and then do singular value decomposition from linear algebra onto that, and then project, project some of the results onto the unweighted data and all of that. And what's happening to me is that one of my CIS data sets has a mask in it. And with the mask, everything looks right. But if I do anything that would remove the mask, and that seems to be all matrix multiplication, then at the end, my results look like bad abstract art. Anywho, we got to talking about programming. You know, I'm mad at r// climate skeptics when I would rather talk about the programming and the Python code I was debugging all day, than like talk about whatever this is. Um, Maximum covariance. What a nerdy Deadpool catchphrase sounds like. Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's keep going. BBC attempting to wash the climate gate emails and reverse the blame on climate deniers of misconduct and hacking. I have no idea what half those words mean, but let's find out together, shall we? I don't remove it intentionally. It just happens when I use matrix multiplication. Um, and I don't actually know if I'm removing it. I just know that it's like the mask isn't there when I'm plotting it. Oh, that's so kind. Um, uh, that is so kind. I I'll probably figure it out. Thank you very much. However, comma, I'm just gonna I can pr- I've this is how I debug, team. What I've done is there's like 5 or 6 steps to my program, right? And I know it's good up until this point, and then I'm just like going through step by step, and I'm gonna try to fix it at all the subsequent points. Um, Anywho, but that's really nice. Okay, so let's learn about ClimateGate, shall we? I tried to click on this button. ClimateGate, BBC. Okay. Conspiracy thriller based on the ClimateGate scandal. Oh no. I need to watch this. Ooh. I need to watch this. This is going to be terrible. And I'm very excited. Okay. Okay. That's not for tonight. I've got to find a way to um uh I've got to find a way to watch this without getting copyright struck so that we can like enjoy this together. And Kira, I don't normally use PyCharm. I actually uh don't make fun of me. I usually am just using like gedit in a Linux terminal. Partially because a lot of what I need to do, so like I'm on my desktop, but it's then connected to a supercomputer. And so it's generally easier for me to just do everything in Linux. Um, uh, okay. Okay, team. I am going to be honest. I am losing steam going through this. Um, I think. Oh, all right. Let's do this one, and then I think we might call it for the night. The wreck of the global warming narrative. 3 new studies show warming from 2001 to 2019 was driven by increases in absorbed solar radiation, not human emissions. Oh, and that's in quotes. But here's the thing, team. Uh, Emissions, like aerosols, are the things that would increase how much solar radiation we're absorbing. Uh, Guys, if you're wondering what Kiro is saying, this is my like, what would the example be? This is like I just told him that I am like building an entire house without power tools. I'm just gonna do it all with a hammer and a hand saw, and it'll be fine. And he's very concerned for me. Okay. Um, okay, so Let's find this article. Let's see what we're quoting. Let's see what's going on here. The do. Oh my gosh, I know you use cookies. It's fine. Okay. Chris, you're concerned for my sanity? I mean, fair. Okay. What? Sorry, this is the wreck of the global warming narrative. And then the first sentence is Fox News plans to start a 24-hour weather channel. Um, so that's cool. Uh, to start with, how do they explain 3 new studies? Okay, cool. Um, what are those studies? Can you cite them for me? Uh, also, um, the news of the last 6 months were the coldest on record in Antarctica. Team temperature, 1, where in Antarctica? Because Antarctica is a whole continent. I doubt they mean the whole continent. And 2, the temperature in Antarctica, there are some ocean currents that lag behind current surface temperatures by like decades. So some of the water that's regulating the temperature in Antarctica, it hasn't felt the effects of climate change yet. Turns out the climate is very complicated. Um, let's hope this link takes us to a thing. Are you going to take me to the articles that say that thing? It's just to what's up with that. That looks fun. That looks like a science article. Global warming driven by increase in absorbed solar radiation, not human emissions. Uh, oh, okay. AGU. Okay. So 1, AGU, that is a reputable publishing thing. That's actually the conference I'm going to next month. I'm going to present some of my PhD stuff. It's going to be great. Anyway, so let's just pull up this whole paper and we'll see if I can get through the paywall without. I normally have to be like on through my school's firewall to get for publisher sites to recognize that I'm at an academic institution that is like paid for access to their journals. But hey, look, it's an open access. And this is also a research letter. So there are like levels of research papers of what shows up in journals. Letters are a little more loosey goosey, but that doesn't really matter. But yes, AGU, this is a trusted organization. So I'm actually happy they found a thing. So Earth's energy imbalance is a relatively small difference between mean solar radiation absorbed and thermal infrared radiation emitted to space. Cool. So what this is saying is that so in a perfect system, all energy that we absorb would then be emitted back to space. It's a black body system. We are very close to one, but we're off from being a perfect system by 0.3%. Uh I mean, Dapper, maybe. So let's keep reading through this abstract. Um, yeah. Okay. Um, the energy imbalance is set by natural and anthropogenic climate forcings and the climate system's response to those forcings. Yes, it is. So that is how much we're going to absorb and emit depends on what's going on planet Earth. It is also influenced by internal variations within the climate system. Yep, that'd be like natural variability of the climate system. Most of this energy imbalance warms the ocean. The remainder heats the land, melts ice. Um, okay. We show that independent satellite and in situ, so that's like at location on the ground, observations each yield statistically indistinguishable decadal increases in Earth's energy imbalance from mid 2005 to mid 2019. The trend is primarily due to an increase in absorbed solar radiation associated with decreased reflection by clouds and sea ice, and a decrease in outgoing long wave radiation due to increases in trace gases and water vapor. These changes combined exceed a positive trend in outgoing long wave radiation, OLR, due to increasing global mean temperatures. Um, yeah, team, this is saying what this says in kind of plain English is that um the so this increase in this imbalance, which means that Earth is holding on to more energy than it would in a black body scenario, causing the temperature to warm. Um, Increase in absorbed solar radiation. So we are of the incoming solar radiation, we're absorbing more of that. Um, and that's associated with with a decreased reflection by clouds and sea ice. So fundamentally, team, what that is the change in the Earth's albedo, right? I've talked about albedo on this channel a lot, but albedo is just how shiny a surface is. Um, and so when we have less ice and differences in clouds, so less ice, noticeably a known symptom of climate change. Um, if we have less ice than we used to, then we are less shiny and reflective than we used to be. So we're going to absorb more of the incoming solar radiation. Less is going to be directly bounced back out into space before it has a chance to interact with the Earth itself. So this has nothing to do with this isn't I don't this does not disprove climate change or anthropogenic climate change in any way, shape, or form. This is in fact expected and predicted by anthropogenic climate change. So if we jump back to let's jump over here. Yeah, so I do appreciate that at least here on What's Up With That, the world's most viewed site on global warming and climate change. Um, the trend is primary that they cop to misquoting. Um, uh, so that's delightful. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I normally we could do the math. That might be a fun, you guys might you guys might enjoy watching me do math live on stream. I don't know. But we could sit down and do it. It actually wouldn't be that hard. You just do your black body balance. So you assume black body radiation, change the albedo, get a difference in energy in watts per meter squared, kind of thing. So yeah. Okay. Well, honestly, team, that is all the climate r/climate skeptics debunking that I have in me for tonight. I'm a little tired. I've been building a house with only a hammer and nails and not using all the appropriate tools. Um, yeah, yeah. Anyway, okay, let me get back to myself for a minute. All right, what do we got coming up tomorrow? First law of thermodynamics, part 3 video, in which I derive an equation. I think that's the one in which I derive an equation for specific heat at constant volume and pressure. And then Sundays will be part 4, where we're going to jump into Carnot cycle. Parts 4 and 5 are both on the Carnot cycle. Part 6 is I do a meteorology thermodynamics problem. And then we'll start into the second law of thermodynamics. It'll be amazing. So that'll be good. And Monday, this coming Monday should be a Guns, Magic, and Steel game. So you guys can watch me play Dungeons and Dragons and DM and all that fun stuff. All right, I'm rambling. You guys are great. Thank you so much for spending so much of your Thursday evening with me. And I will talk to you all later. Okay, bye, team.